Cloninger moves on in, and he scores!
He's going to learn today.
Happy trade deadline day, everybody. And what a trade deadline it was. You are listening to the Pod Street Bullies. This is Derek.
And I am John. What's going on, everybody?
We've got an episode that we're literally just going to dissect the moves that the Flyers have made today. We're going to talk about the 3 deals they made, and that last one kind of snuck in right past the deadline. But
did you know that I single-handedly made the trade deadline more interesting this year?
Did you?
Yeah, so in the past few years, they've been duds. Like, nothing has happened. It's because I take off every trade deadline. I'm like, I love taking off the trade deadline, like whether I'm writing or not. I just have a lot of fun with following the coverage. This year, because someone had to go and spoil my plans, I couldn't take off the trade deadline this year, and it was interesting. Like, things happened.
Heck yeah, things happened. I mean,
I had to count on you texting me the deals.
And lucky enough, I had off work today too. Different story, but regardless, I was off work and I got to follow basically the entire deadline. And, you know, it actually started off pretty consistent. It wasn't like a flurry of moves,
right?
But it was consistent. You were having a move, and then by the time everybody was done dissecting it on TSN, you had another move to dissect, right, or another rumor to talk about. How about the Parise and Ladd rumors, man?
That never panned out, right?
No, it did not.
I mean, that would have been crazy. When I read that, I mean, there were very few times that I had a break today because I was taking the kids to the Museum of Natural History. And I happened to go on Twitter and see that there was possibly a Zach Parise deal to the Islanders. And I was like, first of all, isn't this guy making like $100 million a year? And second of all, how no, because, I mean, I know he's not the Zach Parise of yesteryear, but I don't need the Islanders getting any better. But luckily that didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, the salary would have, I guess, worked out somehow with Ladd being included with the Islanders.
Right.
But, man, Minnesota could have really pulled the fleece over. You know, that's...
What a real mess that Andrew Ladd contract is. Did they ever... did they get a single year of that being good?
I don't even know. I really don't think so.
Yeah. Well, sucks to suck.
Yeah, Islanders. Suckers.
All right.
But anyways, what we're going to do is talk about right now. We're going to get right to it. We want to talk about how the Flyers did at this deadline. Going into this deadline, John, what was your biggest area of need? What was your wish, I guess you could say, for the Flyers to do today?
I mean, up front, I wanted them to address some forward depth issues. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I just wanted, to shore up the bottom 6. Like, I would have loved to get maybe a third-line center that could produce some points. Mm-hmm. That was kind of on my wish list, but I also knew that considering the cap situation and the pieces that we had to move, that was kind of unlikely.
Yeah. I was of the same mindset. I think we talked about it last week where the bottom 6 needed some TLC.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. Guys like Albe Kubel, Pitt, like Lawton, they're all doing well. They're all,
right,
holding their own. But, nothing wrong with adding some depth, especially if you're looking to be a playoff team. And depth is huge when it comes for playoffs. And that's exactly what the Flyers did today. They added the first deal of the day, if we want to go chronological, which it doesn't really matter, but Nate Thompson they picked up from Montreal. Thompson was scooped up for a 5th-round pick, and then they went and traded for Derek Grant, and Derek Grant could be a center or a winger. I think both of them could be centers or wingers. Nate Thompson is making $1 million a year. Grant is making $700K and is having the best season of his career, whereas Nate Thompson, I don't think, has ever eclipsed 30 points. But
looking at it, it doesn't look like he had a 25-point season back in 2010-11.
There we go. He's 35 years old. It's veteran presence, but not the Ryan White, Dale Weiss, Yori Laterra type veteran presence,
right?
Which is good.
Right.
I'm more excited about the Derek Grant acquisition here because you get a guy who is in the midst of a pretty solid year and could bring a lot to that bottom six. His penalty killing, we could, well, if the penalty killer if that's all you're good at, well, that's kind of what the Flyers aren't the greatest at. So it's encouraging they're addressing an area of need. You know.
I mean, I think you want your bottom sixers to be able to fill other roles, right? I mean, just to have somebody on the bottom six is like, okay. I mean, a few people could do that. Like, penalty killing is something this team needs an improvement on, and if these guys have a history of being good on the penalty kill, great.
Yeah, they're in the middle of the pack right now, and I don't have the standings up, but the last thing I saw when I did look at them a week or so ago, they're in the middle of the pack for penalty killing. Right. At home, they're doing better than they are away. Away, they're sub 80%. 81.72 is their penalty kill efficiency right now. Anything to bolster that would be fantastic because a lot of the Metro teams have very lethal power plays.
Right. I mean, and if you're looking at it, the assumption is that Nate Thompson will be your fourth line center. Right? That was said in the press conference or something
I believe
at some point.
Yes, I believe so.
And then Grant will probably be on the wing. I mean, either the third or the fourth line. Mm-hmm. You got rid of a fourth round pick and a fifth round pick and a AHLer who, who cares?
Yeah. Chris Guola was doing decent in the AHL, but I mean, are we going to miss him? Probably not.
No. And people will go, oh, but if you look at who was there, they were doing fine. You're right. Connor Bunnaman was doing fine. Joel Farabee is a bigger conversation, but he was doing fine. Mm-hmm. But this is a team that wants to make some noise in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
They needed to make some sort of improvement. This is where you're realistically going to make an improvement, especially with the cap space that you have.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely an improvement when you're talking about it because guys like Bunnaman, and I believe I tweeted this out from our account earlier today, we have solid depth at center, but the guys that you're going to call up aren't going to benefit from a bottom six type role when they're playing 10 minutes a night at center. So it's like you want them to have the benefit and the luxury of developing a little bit more, playing some top line minutes down in Lehigh Valley, as opposed to plugging them in anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes a night in the NHL.
And when I think of somebody like Bunnaman, right, I think of somebody who's unproven. Yeah. Okay? He's having an okay stint in the NHL. Well, now that he's not in the NHL, he had an okay stint in the NHL. Yeah. You're comfortable enough with him being there, but you have no idea what's going to end up happening. He doesn't have enough of a track record. If you are going to be in the playoffs and you want to succeed, believe it or not, and this is coming from somebody who likes to talk prospects, track records and experience are going to help you.
Yeah, you've got a guy in Bunnaman who has 2 points in 21 games. He's averaging just over 9.25 minutes a night. What are you really losing by sending him back down to Lehigh Valley,
Right.
In favor of a guy like Nate Walker, or not Nate Walker, I apologize. It's from my time covering the Bears. But, Nate Thompson, the Bears. Nate Thompson is playing at a better pace. And so is Derek Grant. Derek Grant is playing at a much better pace. So you replace you could call it production with Bunnaman, with better production from either of those two guys.
Exactly. And I know that the advanced stats darlings don't want these guys to be good acquisitions because it wasn't their hipster pick, and they'd rather the person who had expected farts past the blue line having a higher rating than these guys. But it's just one of those things where it's if you're looking short term, which what these acquisitions are, you've made an upgrade.
Oh, absolutely. We've had this argument plenty of times. This is not a video game where you can roll 4 lines that all of them have the potential to score 20 goals. Right. That just isn't realistic.
And Bunnaman and Farabee weren't scoring 20 goals.
No, Bunnaman only had 1. I mean, Bunnaman had 1. Farabee had 7. Could Farabee have gotten to 20? Yes. Maybe, but long shot.
Right. But and yes, Farabee and Bonneman would have been a better story because they're Flyers farm system bred, and it's one of the young guys. Like I get that, but if you just want to make the playoffs and do well in the playoffs, then this is the route you go, and you don't have to be. It's not like you're giving up on these guys.
No, absolutely not.
But I've seen a few interviews and stories with this Nate Thompson guy, and don't quote me on this, but I think that he suffered like alcohol addiction and he's been sober like 3 years, or there's something along those lines where like he had to fight through some mental stuff. And I always think that people who can overcome that kind of adversity are also great to have as a part of any group. Because they have seen trials and tribulations and overcome things that they probably thought they never could. Mm-hmm. So it's a good story in that regard too. And again, didn't really cost the Flyers much.
No, absolutely not. A 5th-round pick for something like that, who is going to be a rock in that locker room. I mean, everybody wanted to poke fun. I shouldn't say poke fun, but everybody wanted to bring up like, oh, Chris Stewart was great in the locker room, but he sucked. It's like, yeah, now in this case, we kind of replace that with maybe some better production out of Nate Thompson.
And that's comparing apples to grapefruits. Like Chris Stewart wasn't in the NHL for 2 seasons or maybe
one.
just
I
a
think
season.
He just missed one.
Right. I mean, he was playing in the British Beer League. Like, so it's a completely different thing. Like Nate Thompson was playing in the NHL.
Yeah.
I don't really know doo-doo about Derek Grant except for what I've seen on hockeyreference.com. But he seems like a decent enough bottom sixer. I mean, I'm not going to go crazy with either of these guys, but I'm happy enough.
Yeah, this isn't like if we were to acquire JG Pageau, but at the same rate, we all kind of came into this with our expectations tempered a bit because we knew, excuse me, that with the cap room that the Flyers had, they were only going to be able to do so much.
Right.
And what they did, I think, is address an immediate need. Because, let's be honest, I'm not going to sit here and say that this team's this phenomenal machine that is going to just tread through the playoffs. But
exactly.
They don't... When you think about it, the holes aren't as glaring as they've been in years past.
Right. I mean, and another thing you talk about that people were worried was team chemistry. Mm-hmm. You look at the people who are coming in are not going to require major roles. Mm-hmm. They're also not replacing major role players at this point in time.
Yep.
So that chemistry will remain intact. And I think that it also proves to the guys like Giroux and JVR and Voracek that, hey, we're bringing in more experience because this isn't a youth experiment. Like, we want to make noise in the playoffs, and we're going to do the things that we feel are going to help our team.
Yeah, and again, with the whole low risk move, they're both UFAs at the end of the year. They're both making $1 million or less. Yeah.
Right.
So, if it doesn't work out with either of these guys, you cut ties at the end of the year and you don't re-up.
Man, I really wish $1 million was peanuts.
God, me too. Oh, how wonderful that would be.
That'd be great. If anybody's got a cool mill just laying around, they want to help hook a brother up, let us know. Before we go into like the other NHL teams or the other Metro teams and what they did today, I just wanted to take a second because I have seen a few things on Twitter where it's like people are up in arms about these trades. Which, first of all, if this is what's got you up in arms, I don't know. You need to go on some like self-seeking mission to the mountains or whatever. There's much more things to be pissed off about than these. But if you could just trust Chuck Fletcher for a minute, look what he's done with this team. Okay? Look at the moves that he's made to this point. Now, I'm sure people will go, well, Chris Stewart. But look at the other moves that they've made to this point. You've got Hayes. You've got the coaching staff. Tyler Pitlick has panned out. Niskanen
has been a great bronze.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But Niskanen, like, the guy has done well. So give him a little leeway and trust that he knows what he's doing. Stop pretending like you have this master plan laid out, because if you were a genius in the hockey world, you wouldn't be living in your parents' basement watching Daria reruns from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. just so you could come up with some stupid stat. I don't know why I referenced Daria. Do you even know what Daria is?
I don't even know what Daria is, but I'm assuming it's one of those crappy shows that are on like when you wake up after falling asleep on the couch.
It was like an MTV animated show that I think I'm really too young to remember, but she was this brunette with glasses.
I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Yep. She was like the emo kid, you know?
Right, that's what these chuckleheads are watching at 4 a.m. in their mom's basement, eating ramen.
Don't diss ramen. I still love it. It's a delicacy here in the Bob household.
So yeah, I just wanted to say that. Like, calm the F down and just trust Chuck Fletcher, for Christ's sake.
I mean, let's be honest too. If you go out and make a big splash, things like these don't typically work out very well, you know? And a lot of them are rentals. So it's like you get them for a year, they're making $3-4 million. Next year, if you want them, you're going to have to pay them $7 million, $8 million, you know?
Right. Well, first of all, those idiots would also complain about making those moves. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, maybe this can kind of segue into things. Do you look at a guy like J.G. Pageau? Mm-hmm. First of all, great initials, J.G. Even the P, but if you switch it and you go JPG, those are great initials. But JGP, okay.
Ooh.
Anyway, what I'm getting at here is I would have loved for the Flyers to get him. Okay, he would have been someone who could slot into the 3C.
Oh yeah,
having a career year. But look what the Islanders gave up for him, Derek.
Yeah. The Islanders gave up good. I'm paying attention. You can see that I'm paying attention.
I know. Well, I don't have up what they gave up. So
Jesus, are you just not prepared? Like what? It's like I've got to do everything around here.
I'm the color guy.
All right. Well, if we're talking about what the Islanders gave up to get J.G. Pageau, you've got a 2022 conditional third-round pick. If the Islanders win the Stanley Cup this year, they owe that pick. If they don't, let's be honest, they don't owe that pick. They're not going to win the Cup.
Oh, like that pick doesn't exist at all if they don't win the Cup.
No, that if they don't win the Cup, they don't ship it to Ottawa. 2020 second round pick, so a second round pick in this year that does exist and that will get sent to them. Already has been signed, sealed, delivered. Also, a conditional first round pick, and the condition on that for this year is that it's top 3 protected. It's much like when the Flyers traded with St. Louis and got that conditional first round pick. That was a lottery protected pick. This is top 3. So if it's the 4th overall pick, which would be phenomenal, it still goes to the Senators. Because the Senators, by the way, side note, have 3 first round picks.
In a very deep first round.
And I believe they've got 3 second round picks as well, if I'm not mistaken.
That's crazy.
Or they've got something like 8 or 10 picks in the first 70 or 80 slots in the draft. Unheard of.
Yeah.
Whew.
So, I mean, to kind of bring this back into like the Flyers try to go get Pageau, like a first and a second round pick. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No.
That's
that's too much. I mean, I had mentioned maybe a conditional first round pick, but if the Flyers kind of reach their postseason goal, winning a round, then that's something you could deal with, I guess. But this is just too much. And like you said, when you bring in bigger pieces, they have a harder time panning out.
Yeah.
They typically do.
Yeah, and if we're sticking with the Flyers side of things here too, I couldn't tell you who tweeted it out, but apparently was from a source I trusted enough to include. The Flyers were apparently in on JGP, and they offered a second rounder and a prospect and a conditional pick. But because it did not include the first round pick, I believe that's probably why Ottawa pulled the trigger on that deal. And I can only hope that offer from the Flyers would have been somebody like Vorobyev, because we don't need
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, the Islanders are taking a risk here. I mean, they gave a lot of assets for this guy, and they locked him up long term after one good year.
Oh yeah, it's he got literally the Andrew McDonald contract, 5 years, $60 million.
Yeah, I hope it blows up in their faces.
I feel like, oh, how does it feel?
Yeah.
Another big move we could talk about, another move within the Metro as well. You have Vincent Trocheck being traded from Florida to Carolina, and this one was interesting because it was a lot of pieces going to Florida in exchange for Trocheck. You had Eric Holla and Lucas Wallmark, two guys on the Panthers, or on the Carolina roster, my apologies. And then you have two prospects where you have Chase Prisky, who's been a pretty decent defensive prospect for them, and you have A2, and I'm going to butcher this name, I apologize, Luosterainen, I believe is how you say it, or along those lines. I looked up these guys' stats. Not bad. They're playing with the they were playing with the Checkers, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, we all know the Checkers are a pretty solid AHL team. So, it looks like Florida made out pretty well in the return for Trocheck here.
Yeah, I mean, Trocheck's got a lot of term left too. And a guy who has big point potential, but it hasn't panned out recently. Yeah, I mean, he's another person that was like, well, if the Flyers could get a decent enough swap for him, I wouldn't mind. But again, that's a hefty load.
Yeah, if you think about it, Hall is a third-line guy. That's like sending Lawton, Wallmark.
Yep.
I mean, you could draw your comparisons here and there. And then two prospects. That's a lot for a guy like Trocheck, who you're probably going to end up putting on the third line.
And then on the trade block in 2 years.
Yeah. And then, keeping with the news in the Metro, we have our dreaded rivals, the Pittsburgh Penguins, making a deal sending a 2020 third-round pick, second-round pick if the Pens win the Cup this year, for Patrick effing Marleau. I love the man. I love Patrick Marleau, and I just hate the fact that I've been given a reason to hate him.
Right. I mean, this trade would have been great for the Penguins like 4 seasons ago. Like, I don't know.
Doesn't do much for me at this point.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, what does he have? Like 3 points?
He's not doing well. I know that. I think he's got 20 points, something along those lines, in like 50 games or something like that.
Talk about the Sharks showing a little favoritism, though, right? Joe Thornton stayed around, didn't he?
I like that move. I think that's probably best. If he's going to retire at the end of the year, like some people have been saying, he deserves to retire a Shark.
Marleau probably should retire at the end of the year, too. Wasn't the whole point of him returning to the Sharks was that he would spend one more year and then retire?
I think so, yeah. You know what, though? He probably wanted to get traded to a cup contender, much like Thornton, so here he is.
Right.
New York Rangers re-signed Chris Kreider, the number one guy on the trade bait board. 7 years, 6.5 per year, less than Kevin Hayes.
They're also creeping on the...
They are.
So I creep.
This was a move right in accordance with...
Just do it on the down low.
I was trying to
even
continue
has to know.
So that you guys didn't have to know.
They love my singing.
That's the one thing I've heard people actually voice their displeasure about.
My singing gets special shout-outs.
Yeah, because it sucks.
That's not true.
It is. Go back to that tweet like a week or two ago. But regardless, the Chris Kreider move's right on par with the way the Rangers are. We didn't know if they were going to sell. We didn't know if they were going to buy. So they decided, hey, we're just going to stand in the middle and keep this guy. But rhymes.
They also traded... They traded, what's his name, Brady Shea?
Later in the day.
That's not how you spell Shea, by the way.
Skjei.
Did you ever see the SNL? You've seen the SNL, right? Where he's the basketball commentator for MSG has to do a hockey game.
Oh, Jesus.
Have you seen this before?
I don't think I have. I'll have to look that up after the show.
He's like, as they say in hockey, do that hockey.
Oh, yeah, let's do that hockey.
And he goes, he has a player come up to him. He's like, oh, I'm going to interview this guy. Turn around for a second. That's an S, a K, and a J with no vowels. So, no.
I mean, like you said, when you look at that name, you're like, how the hell do you get Shea out of that? But, Skjai? I don't know.
First round pick?
First round pick. For Brady Shea? Ugh.
What?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
The Rangers, man, I hate it, but it's not going to take too long for them to be competitive again.
It's not.
That GM over there, what's his name? Jeff Gordon?
Yeah.
He's
the race car driver.
Is it really?
Right?
Is it?
It is. That's what I kept hearing on TSN today, and I did a double take every time. I'm like,
is it
hold
Jeff
on.
Gordon? It's Jeff Gordon?
Yeah. I was like, the Rainbow Warrior is the GM of the Rangers.
And he's killing it.
Yeah. I was like, good for him.
Oh,
Master
right.
NASCAR, and now he's
Start
master
your
NHL.
engines. I'll give you Brady something or other for a first-round pick.
That guy with the funny last name. Sticking with Metro deals and trying to get back on track here. And former Flyer Wayne Simmons picked up by Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, I sent this in a text to you.
Yeah.
Why?
And New Jersey retained 50% of his salary. It's a 2021 fifth-round pick with condition if the Sabres make the playoffs this year and Simmons plays 10 games. It's a fourth-round pick, which, whatever, I mean, hell.
But it's just really funny because Wade Simmons had to waive his no-trade clause for this.
I can't believe he did.
And he's like, all right, so I'm going to go from a crappy team to a crappy team with crappier weather.
It snows all the time up there in Buffalo.
Right.
Like, it sucks. It's freezing cold.
Right.
Don't recommend.
I mean, no knock to the people of Buffalo, but like if you're not from Buffalo, you don't really like.
No. Total knock to the people of Buffalo because they're the ones that always come on Twitter and like, oh, the Flyers signed Kevin Hayes. Sean Couturier is available. Screw them.
Honestly, dude, any group of people who can be that ruckus and look like they're having such a blast for such a crappy football team every year round.
That's football.
Like, props to them.
That's a different sport.
Okay.
But I get what you're saying, and I agree. I mean, I'd love to go experience Bill's Mafia one day.
Right. Buffalo Sports.
Buffalo Sports. But one more trade that the Flyers, a lot of people had their eye on this guy as well. Andreas Athanasiou. He was traded to Edmonton today, along with a couple other moves Edmonton made. They picked up Tyler Ennis. Ryan Kuffner was part of that deal as well, and Edmonton gave up Sam Gagner, a second-round pick this year and a second-round pick next year. Good move for them.
Athanasiou, yeah.
Athanasiou and Ryan Kuffner. He's a forward prospect.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Sure,
yeah.
Cool. I mean, I know he's an RFA at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Athanasiou.
Yeah, but I mean, for a division that really is not doing well right now in the Pacific,
no,
and
Edmonton had to do something. I mean, you have the two best players in the league on your team.
Yep,
you have to do something. Yeah. So,
I mean, McDavid's arguably the fastest skater in the league, and now you just added another speedster in Athanasiou. Right. It's like they've got some serious speed up there.
What about the Capitals getting Kovalchuk?
Oh, man. And this one, like, I, at the beginning of the season, was all for staying away from him. And when he was coming back, because, like, everybody's like, he's a locker room cancer. And I'm just like, I just don't think the Flyers need him. I don't think he brings much to the table. And boy, was I wrong, because he's been great for Montreal.
And he started great for Montreal. He kind of petered off.
Yeah.
But he does doo-doo 5-on-5.
Yeah, I mean, he's very lethal in that power play, though. But, I mean, look at the power play he's going to end up slotting into.
He's going to be on power play, too.
Yeah, not to mention, Montreal retained 50% of his salary for a third-round pick.
I know. Well, I mean, he was making like $4, so
I know. Oh.
It's all right. But, like, that's the thing. I think if you look at that deal, right, when I saw that deal, I'm like, crap. Here we go. But then when you really think about it, like, the guy's only going to play on power play 2. And have you ever seen their power play 1? Power play 2 doesn't even get onto the ice.
Oh, yeah. Because power play 1 is just incredible.
Amazing, yeah. And 5-on-5.
Ovechkin, ugh.
It's like he skates on work boots with wheels on them. He just like he's just a little slow getting down that ice. So I don't think it's that big of a difference maker.
It's not. it's more depth. He'll be a third-line guy in Washington, but it gives you a pretty decent shot on the wing in the bottom six.
Yeah, on power play, too, that doesn't play.
Yeah. But anyways, keeping with Metro, once again, we have the Pittsburgh Penguins making another move with the Buffalo Sabres this time. Dominic Cahoon is on his way to Buffalo in exchange for defenseman Evan Rodriguez, which will probably end up being 6th or 7th defenseman. He's wanted out since like late December from Buffalo, which don't blame him. And right. Pittsburgh reunites with Connor Sheary.
Reunited and it feels so good.
2 times in one episode. God, Jesus Christ.
Maybe I'll hit the trifecta. You're the one giving me the words, and then I go, hey, that reminds me of a song.
If you hit the trifecta, I will hit you in the face. But, I mean...
You know what I have to say to that?
Yeah.
Hit me with your best shot.
There it is. There it is. Well, guys, as I was going to say before John started...
Anyway, Connor Sheary, what about him?
Connor Sheary is reunited in Pittsburgh. This is the type of deal that infuriates me because I know exactly what's going to happen. Connor Sheary's going to come in and he's going to end up plugging in for an injury in the top 6 with either Malkin or Crosby as his line mate, and he's going to start producing at a point per game pace. That's what happens with Pittsburgh, and I hate it. And I swear to God, if this happens, you can all tell me later that I was right. That's fine. I'm not going to keep receipts, but I just want to let you know I'm calling this. But
of course.
This drives me nuts. This stuff drives me absolutely insane. They make these moves, and it's like they're almost getting help. Like they just wanted to get rid of Cahoon, and they're like, give us your crappy guys from Buffalo.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the Sheary deals that scare me a little bit more than even like the Pajot deals. Because it's just like, it's the right fit, you know, and he's familiar with this organization and the players and, granted, some people aren't there anymore, but...
No, yeah. I mean, this is, like you said, it's the right situation. It's the right move. Connor Sheary had some of actually his best years, not some of his best years. 53 points in 16-17 with the Penguins in 61 games. That's almost a point per game pace. Tailed off a little bit, or like John likes to say, it petered off a little bit. But, man... That's going to be frustrating to watch if Sheary starts just tearing it up, and it's going to piss me off.
Can I deviate from the Metro for a minute?
If I say you can't, you're going to do it anyway. So,
I typically don't go like too deep into like outside hockey stuff when it comes to these deals because ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah,
but there was a deal that caught my attention. And I was like, of all places for this guy to go, Robin Lehner.
I was going to get to that actually after the one I was going to say next. And
sorry.
For different reasons, I want to get to this, though.
Okay, I love this guy. I think what he's done for this sport and just life in general has been amazing. And if you're not familiar with his story, I'm not going to go into it. You can look it up. Yeah. But he's someone who's overcome so many demons.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not questioning his strength at all. I think this guy can do it. But you look at that he gets traded to Vegas. And it's like, shit. It's like where all of your demons are just going to be sitting there waiting for you all the time. Like,
right around the corner.
And again, nobody get angry with me because I'm not saying that he's going to like go on a bender or completely flip. I'm just saying it's like that like little it's just that little thing where I read it and I was like, crap.
Yeah. And I mean, for different reasons, obviously, and here's my reason. I did not expect Chicago to deal Lehner out of their goaltending situation.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I feel terrible for him because he arguably is better than Corey Crawford.
Right. Well, he should have got a long-term contract this past offseason.
Yes, and here's the thing, though. In Vegas, I think that's the perfect situation for him on the ice because Fleury's not going to be around forever. Right. Lehner sticks around, plays 1B to Fleury's 1A, or plays back up to his starter role. Maybe Lehner succeeds him. And I think
have to imagine this guy's going to get a long-term starting opportunity somewhere, though, dude.
Oh, absolutely.
It's more than well deserved at this point.
Yeah, no doubt in my mind, he ends up the starter somewhere, and like you said, well deserved and absolutely earned on his part. But the one deal that I wanted to get to before that one, another Metro deal between two Metro teams. Actually, you have Carolina trading Yanni Kokkonen, forward prospect, the 2020 second round pick, and Frederick Claesson, however you want to pronounce it, another AHL guy on defense, for Sami Vatanen. And this was the first of two Carolina moves. We already discussed the other Carolina move, trading for Brady Shea. They brought in two quality defenders at the deadline.
Is Vatanen hurt?
Vatanen is hurt, but I heard that he's very close to returning, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, my apologies. I don't follow the Devils, I follow the Flyers. So,
right. They came out ready to make some deals. Mm-hmm. Carolina. They
made a good splash today, that's for sure.
Right. They did. Unless you have more to say about specific deals, like if you're looking at kind of the Metro teams and what they've done compared to the Flyers, like, how do you feel about the Flyers deals as compared to other teams, especially the ones who we're going to be competing against for playoff positions?
I guess when you really simplify it, you look at the needs of each team, and you look at the fact that if Chuck Fletcher was in fact very content with the team that he had, he really did do his best to fill the roles that he felt needed filled. No glaring spot in which he focused on. I shouldn't say that. That sounds stupid. There was no glaring hole that he needed to address. But the one thing with this team was the bottom six. He addressed that. You look at these other deals where, the Islanders made this big splash. The Penguins brought in some flashy names. The Caps brought in a guy like Kovalchuk, like you said, probably won't be a huge threat, but is still present. And complete side note, the only other deal the Flyers made, TJ Brennan got sent to Chicago, and Nathan Noel is reporting to the ECHL, the Reading Royals. Minor move, just kind of change of scenery type of move. Yeah, yep. Literally a minor league move. This was, for me, I think the ideal trade deadline for the Flyers. Because if you go out and get a guy like J.G. Pageau, are you going to be able to afford that 5-year, $30 million extension? Right. If you go out and pick up a guy like Athanasiou, you want to part with 2 second-round picks and a low-level bottom six, forward. It works for me. It does the job. And this isn't something I'm running around the streets naked happy about. But it's something that,
I'll do that for anything.
It's the Robert Redford gif where, staring at the camera for about 10 seconds and then he just nods. Like, I'm happy and I'm satisfied with it.
Right. Yeah, the narrative for these past few trade deadlines was other teams got better while the Flyers did nothing.
Yes.
Other teams got better. It's hard to argue that on paper the Flyers made moves comparable to the other teams that they're going to be going up against.
Yeah.
However, I do think when it's all said and done, the moves that the Flyers make could actually help their cause as a unit more. I don't know if that makes any sense. I just feel like
complete sense.
Chuck Fletcher's going, I don't need to go out and get a star because I have guys on this team who are my stars and who I'm going to count on to step up when the time is right. I'm just going to take these little moves and get guys who are not going to be on the team long term to help plug some little holes, So I don't know. If you look again on paper, the Flyers did not have the flashiest deadline. Mm-hmm. Especially in the Metro, everybody was wheeling and dealing. But I do think that you should go into this feeling comfortable because the team that's been on the ice has been playing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. They were on a 3-game winning streak right now.
Right, now they're going to get their asses handed to them by San Jose just because I said that.
But if that happens, the guy at PSN, Steve, he's a Sharks fan, I'll kill him. I'll straight up kill him. If he's listening right now, Steve, I'll kill you. But, those things happen too. I mean, they've lost to subpar teams. They've beaten
San Jose.
Yeah, they've lost to San Jose. They lost to the Kings. They've also beaten the Bruins, the Caps, the Blues. They've beaten the best of the best. They've lost to the worst of the worst. Not necessarily in prior years' fashion where they play up and down to their competition, but all good teams do that. Look at what Boston is, the one that has the losing record against Detroit this year.
Yeah.
Yep. It happens, guys. Like, it's a whole nother rabbit hole we could jump down, but don't overreact. Don't spit your coffee out in the morning thinking, what the hell?
Well, I also think if you look at, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like Carolina made the most like flashy moves today. Like brought in the most like on paper impact players.
The ones that you see and you're like, oh wow, like that happened.
Right. There's also a really good chance that these guys don't pan out because that's a lot of pieces that you're putting onto your team that weren't on your team and don't know your system. And, like the Flyers aren't really screwing with that.
No, and
that's what's so risky about the trade deadline.
The guys they brought in, too, are good locker room guys.
Right. I thought you were going to say good looking.
Thompson's got that burly-looking beard. I'm sure that does it for some people. Not necessarily me. I like more clean-shaven. But, that's just my type.
Right. Yeah.
But you're right. I think that, the teams below the Flyers that are just below, Carolina, the Islanders, Columbus even made like a minor move. They sent Sonny Milano for Devin Shore,
they're on their way down anyway.
They don't have much to play with in regards to trading assets and things like that anyways.
Right. Well, they've lost like 9 in a row or something crazy like that too.
They're on the down tick, But regardless, they got better. But at the same rate, when you think about it, the Flyers did get better. Like they added an essential piece to what is needed to sustain a playoff push, and that's depth. And that's the one thing that should have been focused on in this deadline.
And guess what?
Yep.
Say Grant and Thompson aren't playing the way that the Flyers want, they can recall Butterman and Farabee.
Get out. They can do that.
I know.
So you mean to tell me that even though they just got sent down to the AHL today, they can rejoin the Flyers and slot in for those guys?
Right.
You just blew my mind.
I know. And then at the end of the day, it's like, oh, well, we gave up a 4th or 5th round pick, which I mean, Stevie Maps will flip a poop over, but whatever.
But this is long overdue here. But the DJ air horn, I had to play it because that's like, you blew my mind, John.
So, I mean, listen, I kind of put something like this on Twitter. If you overreacted in any sort of way, whether it was positive or negative today, call me. I mean, we'll talk about things. It'll be all right. But it's not one of those trade deadlines where, we're going to go out and buy anybody's jerseys.
Yeah.
But no, be satisfied and be interested in keeping an eye on what these guys will do on the ice.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up the entire discussion here with the trade deadline, I want to get to one thing, and I want to get your thoughts.
Okay.
All throughout well, I don't have much to play with here, so let me know what your going rate is here.
I'll retain half the salary.
Deal. Done.
Okay.
So
let's go. What do you got for me?
Throughout the day, there was this one account that kept tweeting out fake deals. And what he did was change his name as Avi on Twitter, and he was the Philadelphia Flyers account with this little emoji that looked like the blue check mark kind of.
I'm seeing that a lot recently with different teams, yeah.
Yes, and I shouldn't say that I understand how it can catch people off guard, especially considering what we're about to discuss here.
Okay.
A certain radio station in Philadelphia fell for one of these deals. It was It was Shane Gostisbehere and let me clarify this. It was Shane Gostisbehere, and Shane was spelled Shane.
Okay.
And a first-round pick for Roman Josi of the Nashville Predators. A certain radio station fell for it and discussed that trade live on air.
No.
Let me also preface this before we get your thoughts on this. I've worked in news.
Yeah.
I understand how newsrooms work, and I understand that there's a vetting process to make sure that what airs is correct, is factually Correct. And save your all fake news BS because just save it.
I wasn't going to say any of that.
Well, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the guy right now sitting in his car who's like, oh, fake news, But anyways, this type of error should have never happened. Ever. It should never happen.
I mean, are they looking for new radio hosts? Because
if they are, we're available, but I don't even know if I'd want to work for them now.
Yeah. I mean, well, it says a few things, right? One, it says, idiot, someone needs to lose their job. I'm sorry, but if you can't click on this account and just make sure that he's got more than 7 followers, and make sure that it's the actual Flyers account, like, it's your freaking job. Like, you whatever. I mean, you should go. Second of all, it shows that this particular radio station knows sausage about hockey. Like,
I'm laughing for a different reason, and I'll tell you later. Just keep going.
The sausage thing?
I had a professor in college that anytime you'd say something that he didn't agree with, he would look at me, and he was from Nigeria, did this thick Nigerian accent, and he'd look at me and go, sausage, that's sausage.
That's really funny. I don't know this man, so that's complete coincidence. Oh. But anyway, like, first of all, the guys, Shane Gostisbehere's name is spelled wrong. If you actually pay attention to the Flyers, you should know how to spell his name. Mm-hmm. Second of all, Shane Gostisbehere, a first-round pick, ain't going to cut it for Roman Josi. All right, so the flaws all over the place.
Oh, the same guy that had this radio station tripping over it proposed deals for Patrick Kane as well. And it was Gostisbehere and a first and a second, I think. And then there was another deal, too. I can't remember what it was. He was at it all day. And I hate accounts like that because it's people looking for free clout. Oh, give me followers, give me likes, give me retweets. And I was a
what
sucker.
The hell's the Bobby Hague Hive, dude?
The Bobby Hague Hive is ours. And don't ever badmouth the Bobby Hague Hive. It's not a clout chasing thing. Bobby Hague knows about it now. I just want you to know that.
I know. That's pretty wild. I know. I'm just having a little fun. But anyway.
I made a graphic for it. It's serious. Shut your mouth. The
radio station.
Yeah.
Like, they really talked about this?
They discussed it as if it's a deal that actually happened.
So at what point did they retract their conversation?
I don't even know. And I don't even care because it should have never had to have been retracted to begin with. It should have never been discussed. And if it were to be discussed, it should have been like, hey, there's a fake account out here because literally in the @ symbol, it's NHL Flyers with like 2 or 3 S's. So right then and there, you should know fake account.
Question for you. Is this the same radio station that got into some trouble for saying some off-color things during that whole Mike Scott ordeal?
I don't know. I couldn't put those two together. I have no idea. I don't even remember the station that did that for Mike Scott.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't sure because, I mean, I'm not really familiar with Philadelphia radio because
neither am I.
In New York, but
I just know that it was stupid.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
This whole thing, good. All year, these guys, and not these guys in particular, but any Philly sports radio that's on your dial in the car, talks football and baseball and basketball. And they neglect the Flyers all year long until, holy crap, man, we've got a good team. The same radio station released an article this morning saying the Flyers are the best pro sports team in Philadelphia right now. It's like, since when do you guys care? Right. Like, you have not. That's the first article I've ever seen them post on Bleacher Report.
Yeah, well, that's why, I mean, hockey fans they turn to things like podcasts.
Like us. We're going to shoot it straight and tell you those guys are dipshits.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, though.
But yeah, that was just a fun side story to go off and kind of ride off into the sunset for this episode. I hope that did that at least, and if you're wondering about the sports radio station that did that, it's pretty obvious.
It's a WIP, right?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Do they call it WHIP or is it WIP?
They should call it SHIT. That should be their call letters.
Hey, listen, we're trying to take over their, once a year Flyers coverage.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. The flaw that they made in today's broadcast should be enough to convince them that those guys shouldn't be on air.
Right.
But anyways, before we get too carried away, which we've gotten way too carried away to begin with, John, please let everybody know where they can find us on Twitter.
They can find us at PodSTBullies on Twitter. You can find our podcasts on all of your accessible podcast thingamabobbies, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Podbean. If that's one, right? I didn't make that one up.
I believe so, yes.
I think iHeartRadio is there, too. I don't know if, iHeartRadio keeps things up to date.
They do. They have been.
So, good for them.
Yeah, just not our actual, logo. It's still our old logo, but, that's us.
Right, and then if you have the underground codes, I mean, Pod Muncher's a really good one, too.
Someone actually mentioned that on Twitter today.
Did they really?
Someone said, yeah, you can find them on Pod Muncher, too.
Can I be honest with you real quick? Never in a million years did I think that the dumb crap that I said would catch on to other people. So to anybody out there that, likes the dumb crap that I say and refers to it in a tweet, thank you so much. You have no idea how much that means to me.
Calm down. There was one guy.
I don't care. Dude, somebody mentioned the Bobby Hague hive to freaking Bobby Hague. Who'd have thunk that two morons hanging out on their computers would get anybody. Yeah, I mean, even if it's 4 people. So thank you to anyone who enjoys regurgitating our dumb crap. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yeah, if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't have the platform we have, and we absolutely
we
might still, but yeah, whatever. You know what I mean. Regardless, we enjoy it and we're having fun with it. But you can find John on Twitter at PodStreetGove. You can find me on Twitter at PodStreetBob. And as always, that I leave you with, let's go Flyers.
Bye now.